Hello, welcome to Low Code Campfire, episode number 193. This is an Open Lines Friday. I am Dale Warner, head of support for Plantain App, and I'll be joined here momentarily by Patrick Anderson, technical success manager for Plantain App. And together and with you, we'll talk about, well, anything you want to talk about with low code and Plantain App, because that's the purpose of this event, community gathering, where we get together and talk about the techniques and challenges and experiences and just generally help each other on our path to developing our applications. All skill levels are welcome. We put all of these out on YouTube. YouTube.com/plantainapp is our YouTube channel. And if you subscribe there and hit the alarm bell, you'll get notified when we post the new episodes. We run this same agenda week by week where we say hello because we're a friendly group and then go around the campfire talking about anything that got submitted in advance and contributions to our campfire website, different any and all of these areas. And then after an hour or so we go into our afterglow segment. That's where we turn off the recording and continue to have the discussion and raise in a virtual adult beverage, begin to celebrate the beginning of the weekend. So do hang around for any and all of that. Jump in, show and tell, use the chat if you want, but we do encourage you to participate. You can submit questions and topics in advance, and one way to do that is to use this QR code. You can also send an email to support@plantainapp.com and we'll get it on the list. But anything you submit in advance, if I have a chance, I'll do some research, but regardless, we'll get it on the agenda. So with that, hello all, and glad to see Patrick joining as best he can.
Morning.
Hey.
Morning. Hey guys.
Morning.
Patrick. Good morning. Patrick is suffering
from... Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Dennis. Patrick is suffering from internet up and down syndrome. So we may, if he disappears on us, it's nothing personal.
Just got back online, so hopefully it'll be good for this call.
Oh, right. So did anybody come with a first call, something that you want to talk about first, a challenge that you're facing? I'm going to fill the arrow. Oh, Ben, you're popping to the top.
I can say something. It's not so much a continued problem. I think I've addressed it, but for anyone else that may have a similar issue, maybe it's like a learning experience I can share. Last week I had mentioned it briefly. I think it was probably after the recorded portion of it, but we're having a situation where I have web pages that will, for argument's sake, generate a URL or whatnot. And the way it generates the URL is it's using the token URL : domain root, which is supposed to take into account the protocol, whether it be HTTP or HTTPS, that the person is currently on the page with. And it actually does. So there is nothing wrong with the token. The issue that I was seeing was that, let's say, for argument's sake, someone goes to a page and on that page, I'm embedding a PDF. And in order to embed the PDF, you need the full URL. So again, I'm using that URL : domain root as the front part of the address. And then I add the additional piece on the end that points to the specific PDF file. What was happening was I was getting HTTP back on that URL. So then the client browser was not displaying it if the person had the settings, which the default are, to block insecure content. So if you're coming in on a secure page, there's insecure content, it won't display it. So you have to change your browser settings. I was trying to figure out how to fix that. Ultimately, the problem was because, and I don't know if other people do this, but if anyone does, when you offload your SSL certificate to a load balancer is when you're going to come across this problem.
Hmm.
because from the perspective of how the flow of data goes, from the client browser to your load balancer, you're secured. From the load balancer to your website, you are no longer secured. It's just regular HTTP communication. And then once the website replies and goes through the load balancer the other direction, it re-encrypts it. And again, you're secured from the load balancer back to your client. So the issue is that token, URL domain root, when it's running on the other side of the load balancer, it doesn't know you're on HTTPS. It sees HTTP. So that's what it builds. That's what it returns. But once you cross that line to the other side, now you're in mixed mode because you just sent a URL of HTTP on a page that from that perspective should be on HTTPS. So now you have both of them and then your browser starts complaining. So what I basically did is I wrote my own URL domain root. And what I did with that is check the IP address of who's running that request. So if the IP is of the local machine, then, for example, that's either going to be an administrator that's on the server, or it's going to be an automation running, because both of those are running at the local machine. They don't go through the firewall, through the load balancer. If it is not the local machine's IP address, that means it came from outside that machine. So it should always return HTTPS.
Cool.
And once I did that, and now I'm replacing all of my URL domain root with my own version of domain root, it's returning the correct protocol. And now these people don't have to worry about mixed mode. But again, it only affects those that have a load balancer and they're offloading their SSL.
Did you do that with a Razer?
Yes.
Cool. That'd be fun to see.
It's really not difficult at all.
Mhm.
You know, I could definitely share that code. That's not an issue. It was just trying to figure out why it was happening.
Yeah.
It's not something that like popped in my head right away. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, we are offloading SSL. So, depending on which side of the firewall you're on is, one side you're unencrypted, the other side you are encrypted. And that's when it dawns on me, oh, if the system is trying to look at the protocol on one side of the firewall, it doesn't know that the original request came in as HTTPS.
So this was a great question that happened. You posted it, I think, on the community forum, and I played a little bit in this area. I like your solution that it's very explicit, knowing which server that you're on and then responding appropriately. But did you? I had put a contribution. I was just wondering if that gave you any hints of was it of any value, or if you found that it was completely the wrong track.
I did see it, and it's kind of what prompted me to realize what the issue was, because I did run yours and it was the same exact issue. Because again, once you were on the other side, it didn't realize that the original request came in one way. Now, the X forwarded proto, I looked at that. I tried X forwarded 4. I even tried the actual header that I told them to use. And for whatever reason, I wasn't getting anything back. So I still have to clear that with them. But the whole is secure connection is always going to be false. The schema is always going to be HTTP because you're on the unsecured side of the load balancer. The only thing that would potentially address that is that whole request headers part. But I have to see why either they took it off and didn't tell me, or I'm not doing something correct with regards to the headers. I still have to look into that. But for the time being, in a similar fashion, like I said, checking the IP address works for me because I know that this website has to be HTTPS. Doing it this way, like what you're showing, if I could get that headers to work, would be the best way, because then that would work for both encrypted as well as unencrypted websites. But right now, I just have my workaround.
And that was my testing. I happened to have a site that I could access through the Amazon load balancer or an SSL certificate that's on the server or non-encrypted. I had all three on one website. And this was reliably telling me it was returning true when it was HTTPS either way. So when the request header is coming through, and I think this X forwarded proto is the Amazon load balancer header, it was working for me. So I agree. If you were getting a header from your whatever load balancer that you could rely on, this technique would also work. Should work. But anyway, it is an interesting problem, and it's yeah, driven by this whole move to, I mean, load balancer change to the hardware gives you a different scenario from the perspective of the site itself.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this was really a first call or a partial ghost story.
Well, either way, you chased it down, and it's something that somebody else might experience another time. So two possible solutions for that. That's a good one. All right. What else? As always, I have some things in my back pocket we can talk about. Might be of interest. I'm just going to start down that path, but I'm always happy to go where you want to go. So let's do that. As far as the beta is concerned, we do not have any issue reports. If you're participating in the beta, then you have access to the 127 beta on community.plantinap.com, and that is, like I say, there's no other recent reports. One thing that I found early on, but if you find more and you're participating, any comment or interest or anything at all on the beta that anyone wants to share? Good. Mark, are you ready to play?
I do. Go ahead.
All right. So Mark did a cool contribution to the Campfire website, and I told him if he was ready to talk about it, we would talk about it. So here we go. The contribution, a lot of words over here on the left, so we'll get to that. But the impact that he's got is that you can pop up a nice table with rows of choices, and when you click any one row, the fields in the form take all the attributes of that row. So, for example, if you're picking a preview class of the right arrow, each time you whichever one you click, the fields fill in automatically. So this is some JavaScript. Whatever you pick, if we click Show Values, you can see that these values in the fields are available to use in your button click. So this is in comparison, for example, to the drop-down control that Plantinap provides, where you get either the text or the value, but not more than those two things back from the control. So this is giving you three things or as many as you have. So that's the setup. Maybe Mark, you can describe how you were going to use that, and what a practical use case is, and then anything else you want to talk about the implementation.
Okay, great, Dale. That was a good description of what it looks like and what it does. The way I envision using it, and I have already started using it this way, is assembling that much data on the screen for the user to see, and then grabbing the pieces that I need when they make their choice, without having to just grab an ID of a row and then turn around and go look up the other attributes or properties that are in that record. So I don't have to do another round trip, because the data that I need is sitting right there, and I would always have always wanted to just be able to grab it and use it, and now this allows you to do that. that's pretty much the main thing. The second thing is that, you know, it can produce and display more than just text. So you see font icons in there. It could be images. It could be other things. So that's also a nice benefit. That's
Very
what it's there
nice.
for.
Yeah, so oh, the boards are lighting up. Matt, hello, what do you got?
So before you guys start, sorry, Ben, before you guys start, one additional thing I'll add is that you can also add additional columns to your table, and they can be hidden. So they don't have to be visible, but they can still have your data in it that you as the developer need to return on a click. So that's another attribute that I like. This actually mimics a something called a list box that another product has, dynamic forms I used to use back in the day. And I've always wanted to recreate that. So that's all.
And I'm gonna throw out there, you've chosen to show all these fields as they're clicked, but these could be hidden fields too. So you could have the interface could be selecting a row and going on to other things, clicking a button, and you've got all those values to do something with while not.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. It doesn't have to be visible, but sometimes you want it to be. But I just wanted to have it there so you can see that it was getting more than one column.
So Ben, I think maybe your hand was up first. What do you got?
No, I was just going to say, this is similar to kind of the behavior of the drop-down control within ASP.NET. And what I was going to say was I would love to see this type of idea, because I know I've needed it in the past, but in a drop-down, not in a list box, because I don't necessarily want to eat up the screen real estate with every item in the list. But I would love to be able to see the ability, like if we did a select SQL statement that populates a drop-down box. Right now, it accepts two values, the text and the value. If you give it just the text, then it uses that as both text and value. But I would love to see the ability to add more columns to that beyond text and value, anything that we want, and anything extra that you add, whatever those field names are, would just automatically be available on like field name : and then whatever your custom field name was.
Boy, if I wanted that too. On many occasions. Yeah.
And we've talked about that in a previous time.
There are situations where there's hidden information that I want available that I don't necessarily even want to display it. But it's when you click on an item, I need to use some other piece of information that maybe I send to an API call that then returns something and does something on the page. It's not something that I want to necessarily maybe even do as a button click, but I only have two pieces of information. And if I'm using those two, then I'm kind of, have an issue. The only way I've found a way around it is to do, let's say, for argument's sake, as my value, a string that is like parsed with some sort of a delimiter. And then I have to make my JavaScript parse out that value, pull out the correct item and the stuff to then use it. It's just a much more of a rigmarole way of doing it. And if it could be directly in a dropdown, that would be awesome. And if we could actually have multiple columns in a dropdown, that would even be better. But extra hidden data would definitely be helpful.
You point out, one use case. Another use case would be that you may completely reorganize the form, show and hide things based on values in different columns. So by using the same bind logic that we already have and pointing to some hidden fields, one click could impact lots of different things in different ways, and your options would all be specified
exactly
within the table. All right, Matt, do you want to play in here?
Yeah, actually, Ben covered the question that I had about this, but Mark, I just want to say thank you. This is awesome. And we're already trying to make it a new feature into the product, but as
It's
is,
definitely
it's
something
very
missing.
helpful and very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dennis, you still have your hand up.
Yeah, Jerry and I ran into this sometime back, and he pointed it out to me yesterday. And he told me how to get around it, which is when you're adding radio buttons to a form and you go down and you tell it that it's a required fill. It comes up on the form and says is required. Okay. Now, I didn't give it a lot of thought until yesterday when I had to make some modifications to a form for Planet Marketing where I had like about 15 radio buttons on that page for different selections that they could make depending on what they were purchasing. And, you know, I know all you got to do is uncheck it where it says it's required, but then if it's required, it's required. So why do you show it's required? I mean, it seems like we should have the ability to select that it is a required fill or radio button, whatever, and it not show up though. You know, like normally we just put an asterisk and say required fields, and you know, you look down the page or the form and you see where an asterisk is, and then you know these are required. But you're forcing the is required onto the screen, and we have no way of turning that off. You see what I'm talking about?
I do. Let's see if we can put an example up real quick. So if we have a form, we have a radio button. Make sure I get the right one. Single choice, I guess, radio boxes.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, and we'll just accept these first item, second item, but we have it with the not bind expressions, but rather validation as required. And we'll also add a button here just to show values. And we'll display an error message and display the field choice, save. So this gives us, you have to pick something, and when it comes up at first, it has no item selected, and it is required. If we try to submit, it says this is required, and then you have to pick something, and then that message goes away. So okay, so now I have a working kind of reproduction, Dennis. What behavior is it that's bothering you?
Well, what I was seeing, like I said, is that these radio buttons are checked, you know, that they're required. And so when I pull the form up, every single one of them says is required out beside it.
Let's just make sure. Go ahead.
You're saying that they say that immediately, or
Yes.
after?
immediately. There's no, none of them are checked by default, obviously. But it came up and told me every one of them was required.
I see the same thing on a normal basis.
I'm wondering if that has to do with the skin that is in use.
Could be. Yeah.
Just to confirm, you are this is a Bootstrap 5 that you're using?
Yeah, I'm using Ozone 2, Bootstrap 5.
Yeah, we're not seeing that behavior on ours until you submit, because when you do a submit button that causes validation, our validation gets triggered, and unless there's another scenario, I mean, if you have anyone has suggestions on a different way that I could try this. Let's try the horizontal variety. See if that's part of the problem. So horizontal and radio buttons. Comes up without it. When you click it, it makes you pick. And
Yeah, while Dale does that, I'll say I use the DNN, the DNN Go skins, and I actually had to add CSS to actually show a required label after a field when it's marked as required, because by default there is nothing. So I actually had to add it in. So I'm going to take a guess and say that it's your what is it, Ozone or something like that you're using? It might
Ozone 2.
be, yeah, it might be their skin, where if they see the class required attached to a field, they're adding whatever that visual is to the field. So you're going to have to override that, similar to what just Mark posted. So you'll have to add that to your custom CSS, and that will override it so that it doesn't display anything, after that field.
Hey, Dale, pop back over to that multi-column list box contribution. I just added radio boxes, and I'm seeing the behavior that Dennis is describing. Oh, well, okay. So this is very interesting, because on my screen, there's a box, looks like a button after both first item and second item, and they both say required in them. And I see that and you don't. Why would that be?
I'm going to do a full force refresh. Did you have some CSS that we put on there? Let's see.
Not new, like not from a minute ago.
So I hit show values and it pops. That's a great question. What's going on that's different?
Let me show you, so that you can see what's we're describing.
That's right, because otherwise I'm going to think you're a liar. No, seriously, please do. And since it's happening on yours, maybe we can
troubleshoot it.
Yes, I mean, it's not happening on mine, so it's hard to prove the negative.
And it's number 4. Share. That's not the right one. Let's see if I can just get it there.
Oh, close your take yourself out of edit mode.
Me?
Yeah.
I've tried.
Okay, we've
Interesting.
got the Google screen up, just so you know.
Yeah, we're seeing Google right now.
Google.
We saw the right thing for a minute, but
You're seeing it now?
yes. Yeah, so close the take the page. Yeah, yeah, close there.
Watch this.
Oh, it won't let you.
A's.
You've got the button highlighted there.
Yeah, unhighlight
Editor.
your left-hand button. Yeah.
Give me a better description of what you
The
want.
Blue
On the
lower
left,
left-hand
the blue
corner.
pencil, you're forcing edit mode to stay on always.
The close should have closed it.
Nope. It doesn't.
Yeah, I realized that as soon as I saw what you're seeing, I realized that I've seen that in when the page is in edit mode before. But from what Dennis, from what you were describing, I don't think this is what you're seeing. Can you confirm or deny that?
No,
Dennis?
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Does your page happen to be opened into admin mode?
Well,
edit mode?
I don't know. What I did, because I had to get this ready for them yesterday because they had a whole bunch of people from England that needed to make reservations, and I just turned validation off.
Okay, I just brought this same page up in a browser that is not logged in, and it does not have the required labels on it as we would want it to be. Well, isn't that interesting?
So now I put mine into. You mind if I share back?
Yeah, go ahead. If I'm looking for the ability to turn it off.
So I put mine into edit mode, and now I'm seeing what you're seeing. So that's at least a relief that it's not just, magic. And then if maybe we can inspect and see where that's coming from. So we're pointing to the required, and it's required after.
Yeah, so this is related to the CSS that you pasted into the chat, correct, Mark?
Yeah,
What-
the CSS
Yeah.
clears it up.
Yeah, well, okay, so I turned off or turned validation back on. I'm not in edit mode, but mine still say required. I've got 4 different nights they can select the rooms that they're booking, and every one of them says required.
Well, that actually corresponds to my memory of this. I was surprised just now to see it only happening when in edit mode. I expected to see it all the time. I think that's my experience mostly. Like you.
So
Dennis.
all right, let's go back to it. I'm trying to figure out. I mean, our message is this field is required. This is an on submit, this field is required. So again, I'm trying to figure out where this is coming from. Is it? So we go.
Now, these are being built using a SQL query. I don't think that would matter.
So it's the after. Oh, content required. So this is the required label after coming from the default CSS, which is shared resources. So you could
when I click one of the selections, I got 4 different selections they can make. It never goes away. It still says out to the right in a little grayed out looking box. It says required.
I don't know if you saw in the chat. I use these two classes in mine, which override the behavior. So instead of seeing the required on every item, it shows up after the label of the actual field just once. And I wrote this specifically to override, any way that it displays it otherwise.
I use some similar something also, but it's much pared down from what you posted. But yeah.
So this is resources shared style sheets. This looks like something that's coming from DNN, yes? Well, author Ryan Martinez, 2012. So wherever this is getting contributed, it's not a Plantain app functionality, right?
So guys, I just spun this up on another website, and when I'm not logged in, therefore not in edit mode, I still see the required after both of the options.
Yeah, and I guess that if you inspect that, you'll see that it's probably coming from a skin CSS file or something in DNN. I tried a different skin on my page, and I see it when I'm not in edit mode. And I inspected it, and it's coming from a specific skin CSS file. Why?
So, we could
Interesting that it's showing up on the contribution site. Oh, actually, it's not when you're not logged in, is it? Never mind.
So it looks like we could override this content and make it not happen. I made it go away. Can't find it. All right, try again. So it would be, we could add our own class. The point is, okay. I guess I would just say this is a not a Plantain app thing. It's CSS, and it could be overridden. How do we do that? Dot require, or do we do our own?
You could just use that style that I pasted in the chat.
And I was thinking we would want to come up with a class, or so that you could do it site wide, so it would have the same behavior. But I suppose we can illustrate it here. Nope. So proof of concept here. Radio boxes. Style for the probably the control.
There's character missing at the end. Curly bracket.
Well, actually, I don't know if I can put this here or not.
Yeah, I don't normally put it there, but
Where would you, where were you suggesting putting it?
well, I typically create a static text box and I put all my styles that I need for the form in
Yeah.
there in a style.
Okay. Let's maybe another way here. If we go, we do it at the form level and call it required fix. And that's not what I wanted. So I only barely know CSS, so I'm gonna back out. But it's CSS of your theme, not and DNN, and it's something that can be overridden, but it's not something that we're triggering. Is that a fair enough answer?
Dennis, moving those
Okay.
required boxes up to like where it says radio boxes, would that be okay, or you just want it not to say required at all?
Well, I didn't want it to say required at all. Like I said, I have on the form, I've got an asterisk that says required fields, and that typically is all I ever do. I just put, if it's got an asterisk, then it's required, and then like when you go to the field, the name of the field has an asterisk beside it.
Yeah,
Hey guys,
so
Jerry here.
if you look at the CSS that I put, that first, there's two CSS classes. That first one, if you add that one, I believe is the one to your site's custom CSS, it will erase the required portion after all of those items.
You could do the same thing with the style that I put in there. Just put it in the portal CSS.
At the page level, I just added as more CSS, and this is Mark's contribution right here to say don't do that. And the result was that it got rid of it. And then
You could have put that middle line in the portal CSS as well, and that would have done it for the whole site.
So this, by falsing that out, this brings it back. And if we look at portal CSS, we can put it in globally here. Just add it to the bottom. So there's a couple of different ways to handle that. And yet it's still, if we hit show values, our error message still appears because it is required. So you can kind of get rid of that particular flag and add and still have the validation to make sure that all your fields are entered. Okay, does that help you out, Dennis?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Absolutely. All right.
Hey,
Hey guys,
just a
Jerry
quick-
here. I want to close this out if you don't mind. I've got a different way of handling that exact same issue. Um, the nature of a radio control in the first place is once one item is selected, it can't be unselected. So you can move around the radio controls, but you can't ever find it empty ever again. So what I did to fix this problem is on my page load, I ensured that the first item was already checked. And then I turned off the requirement because it can't be unchecked. Therefore, the validation on the required side did not have to happen. And so thus my little required boxes or buttons or whatever you call those things that were showing up, they disappeared. And that's where the term jerry rigging came from, guys. But that works religiously, and you know, and the radio control is the only place I have seen this anomaly. It's not on multiple choice check boxes, I don't think. Well, I probably should do a little bit more research before I claim that. But again, just put the radio controls into a preloaded value if you can, if your form would allow for that, if you don't mind the user already having the first item selected, and off you go.
Yep. And these other
Well, in
solutions.
this particular case, and because of who we're dealing with, Jerry, it would be telling them that the first item is a $575 per night room. And I just know how this works. They would be selecting that when they meant to, select, let's say, a different room that was $1,100 a night.
Forcing them to make a choice is what you're saying. You ideally you want it to be required. Forcing them to make a choice. So
Precisely. And that's what I meant, Dennis, by saying if you can allow that to happen. It was my only way of being able to get our forms to drop that required. Now, obviously, with a little bit of JavaScript, a little knowledge, this remedies that problem for us. I still missed the part about where's it coming from? Is that a Bootstrap 5 thing that's happening, or is it a skin thing that's happening? I guess it really doesn't matter as long as we have a solution, but it was a ghost story for me, Dale.
well, so just using the object inspector, when you point to that thing, it's the CSS. When we found the CSS here that says where it's giving you the value, so it's coming from this default CSS file, which is on your you get the path where it's coming from, and then this is where I'm saying it's not something we're releasing because we put all our stuff down in folders that have our name on it. So resources, shared style sheets, DNN default. This is coming from DNN. If it, as Patrick pointed out, maybe the path is telling you a specific skin is providing it. So yeah, it could be coming from anywhere, but this is how to find out where it's coming from. Then what you want to do about it is up to you.
Thank you for such great investigative work, Dale.
Yeah. Well, you guys just forced me to do the right thing there. Okay. Good one. So let's see. On Mark's contribution, and I wanted to spend just one more minute on that. The script, and I'm sure it's in the come on. we want to close this out here. All right. I'm sure it's in the instructions someplace, but just pointing out that this JavaScript makes use of knowing the form number, the form ID. So this form ID, if we were to edit it, we would see that it is number 1967, and you can see that at work here. So the JavaScript needs to know what form you're talking about, and that's in here at least once, and I don't know, maybe more. Yeah, we see it here, some CSS going on. And so you'll have to adapt this to your setup, but at least there's a great example here showing how it can happen. So thanks for doing that. Mark made use of, in this solution, there is a contribution I did a while ago, the JSON to table, and this just says, there's a contribution out here that says, whatever JSON that you have, in this case I have some cars, and I hit create table, and it gives us HTML output that you can then display. So I displayed it in both in text and as a static text, which the HTML is output. So whatever kind of JSON that you have, you end up getting a table out of it, and you can do more with this, and you can style it and whatever. But just a reminder that sometimes it's useful just to have a be able to take JSON and get it out to the screen, and that's an easy way to do it.
I've used this also, and it's very handy.
And now on, this is where we get Patrick to do some work. If you didn't see the Low Code Cafe on Wednesday, this is what Patrick developed, and so now we've got him pasting, taking scripts they got out on Campfire so that they can be repeated. But if you want to learn about, we have this new feature, Razer Web Tokens, and this Razer script, these different Razer scripts take advantage of that. You can go and view the episode and watch the whole hour. But for example, this is showing that within the downloads section, there are these, what files are there, or in the temp folder, there's other folders with outputs, and you can download them. This, if you're not logged into the Campfire website, you can't see all these files just for security reasons. But so long as you're a member, and you can become a member just by asking, you can see these at work, and then yeah, all these different ones. So Patrick, anything particular you'd like to call attention to on this contribution?
No, I don't think so. There's the token import file downloads, in case anybody's interested. They're comprehensive, so you should be able to download that, and it includes all the tokens that should make this work on any DNN site. You know, a token for getting the folders, and token for getting the files, and the for the advanced one, it includes a separate file link token, and the file listing is in a separate token as well. So
this relies on a minimum version of Plantain App, right? It was. Do you happen to know what the version?
Yeah. So actually the Razer Web Tokens. So that in that list, in the token import file downloads, wherever I say new Razer engine, that's actually not published yet, but it will be. It should be, yeah, this version that you're at, 126.306, and tokens .23 will be the version. So, but it will be available in 1.26.
So hotfix is soon to come, and if you wanted it today, we would certainly give it to you. But
and just for context on that, so everybody understands the reason why we sometimes do this, like this is a new feature, but we're doing it in 26, is because it's specifically for a client that needs the new functionality we've put in place, and so that's why.
The other thing that came out that Patrick spent some time talking about this low code cafe is that tokens, instead of having to go to the tokens, let's see, one of those tokens was what? What's the name?
Anything under the files namespace.
Okay, files namespace. That I mean, we can. You're familiar with the if you use Razer script at all type, then you've got this editor here to be able to use it. But we also demonstrated that these are now going to be stored on your file system. And so you can, if you have a lot of tokens or want to edit them in something other than the editor that we've provided, you can just open them up in the right spot on the file system and modify them. And they're so just easier, more flexible editing. So that's a new feature that's available. All right. So new capabilities of Razer and new places to edit them. You can edit in either spot. I've been pushing this one forward, and with 3 minutes, there's no way we could get into it, but I'll continue one of these times. We'll get to it. This is one of those I've got in my back pocket. So being able to get a Microsoft bearer token, how to do that, and just some best practices for caching a bearer token so that you don't have to continue to bother Microsoft to give you a new one with every call. So we'll get into that another time. Got about 2 minutes left, so if there's any last thoughts or questions, it's a good time for it. All right, with that, thanks for spending your hour with us. It's been a good investigation. We've lively topics, and we will do it again next week, next Friday, 10 a.m. Central Time. I hope you'll join us then. Thanks, everyone.